The rain on Kepler 186f was a rain as humans knew it. It was a thick, viscous downpour of ammonia-rich droplets that clung to the reinforced polymer of Sergeant Major Elias Vance's helmet, blurring the already dismal view of the terraforming installation. Around him, the 7th Mobile Heavy Support Battalion, 3rd Armored Division, labored in the dim, perpetual twilight. Their mission: secure Sector Glimmer 9, a newly discovered vein of Xylosium, a crucial element in faster light travel, before the notoriously unscrupulous Kaelen Corporation could exploit it. Vance wiped his visor, the ammonia scent sharp in his nostrils. He's seen harder deployments. Proxima Centauri B's dust storms were a physical assault, but this felt like a slow, creeping despair. The rain amplified it. "Status report, Davies," he barked into his comm. "Still nothing, Sergeant Major. Perimeter scans are clean." "Kaelen spouts haven't shown," replied Davies, the squad sensor specialist. "Atmospheric readings unusual. Increased biosignatures, but nothing registry as sentient." "Unusual how?" Vance pressed. "The patterns are complex, almost like a network." Vance frowned. Kaelen usually wasn't subtle. Their scouts were brutal efficient. A network of biosignatures suggested something else entirely, something the TCDF hadn't anticipated. "Maintain vigilance, Davies. Let me know if anything changes." Vance turned to Corporal Reyes, the squad's heavy weapons specialist. "Reyes, check the rear perimeter." "I want eyes on everything," Reyes acknowledged with a curt nod and moved out, the rhythmic thud of his pulse rifle a counterpoint to the drumming rain. Vance scanned the installation, a sprawling complex of prefabricated structures and automated machinery built into the side of a sheer cliff face. The Xylosium vein ran deep within the rock, accessible only through a series of carefully excavated tunnels. "Sergeant Major, I'm picking up something." Davies' voice crackled in his ear. "It's faint, but it's moving." Vance activated his own sensors. A tiny blip appeared on his display, almost lost in the background noise. It moved erratically, defying predictable patterns. "What is it?" "Unknown. It's not registering as any known Terran or Kaelen tech." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A low, guttural groan echoed through the installation. The rain intensified, the ammonia droplets now stinging his skin. "Seismic activity?" Ray's voice came over the comm, laced with apprehension. "Negative," Vance's reply. "It's organic." From the darkness beyond the perimeter, lights shapes began to emerge. Not the sleek, aggressive forms of Kaelen's security drones, but something else. Twisted, bioluminescent growths pulsating with a sickly green light. They moved with an unsettling fluidity as if they were part of the landscape itself. "Contact!" "Multiple contacts, bearing 310. Ray shouted, unleashing a volley of pulse rifle fire. The bioluminescent growths surged forward, absorbing the energy blasts with an almost comical lack of effect. Then they began to coalesce, not into individual organisms, but into larger, more complex structures. Walls of pulsating flesh, towers of twisted tendrils, all animated by the same unsettling intelligence. "What the hell are those things?" Davies gasped. "I don't know," Vance said, his hand instinctively moving towards his sidearm. "But they've got Xylosium fever." The initial onslaught was a chaotic melee of pulse rifle fire and desperate maneuvers. Ray's heavy weapon ripped through the pulsing flesh, buying them precious seconds. But the creatures kept coming. Their numbers seemed limitless, their movements coordinated, as if controlled by a single, unseen intelligence. "They're adapting," Davies reported, his voice trembling. "They're learning to deflect our energy weapons." Vance realized they were facing something entirely new, something beyond their training, beyond their experience. These weren't just hostile organisms, they were a living network, evolving in real time to counter their every move. "Fall back to the central command post," Vance roared. "Davies, provide cover." "Ray's rear guard." The retreat was a desperate scramble for survival. The bioluminescent growths pursued relentlessly, their movements growing more coordinated with each passing second. They began to manipulate the terrain, creating barriers of pulsating flesh, redirecting the flow of the ammonia rain. Reaching the command post, a reinforced bunker carved into the cliff face. Vance sealed the blast doors, just as a wave of the bioluminescent growths crashed against the exterior. The structure shuddered under the impact, but held. Inside, the command post was a hive of frantic activity. Communications officers desperately tried to reach TCDF headquarters, while engineers worked to reinforce the defenses. "We're losing contact with the outside," a communications officer reported grimly. "The network is jamming our signals." "How much time do we have?" Vance asked, his voice tight with apprehension. The network is expanding rapidly, an engineer replied. It's integrating with the installation's systems. It's learning our protocols. I estimate we have 3 hours, maximum. 3 hours to figure out what they were facing, and how to stop it. Vance gathered his officers, a grim determination hardening his features. We need a new approach, he said, his voice echoing in the cramped confines of a command post. Standard tactics won't work against this. We need to understand how this network functions and find a weakness. Davies suggested analyzing the biosignatures, searching for patterns, for vulnerabilities. Reyes proposed a brute force assault overwhelming the network with sheer firepower, but Vance knew that both approaches were flawed. Then a young, unassuming engineer named Chen spoke up. Perhaps we're looking at this the wrong way. The network is integrating with the installation systems, right? It's learning our protocols. What if we can use it against it? Chen's suggestion was audacious, bordering on reckless. But it was also their only hope. Explain, Vance said, his eyes fixed on the young engineer. Chen outlined his plan. They would feed the network false data, misleading information designed to confuse its calculations, to disrupt its evolution. They would turn its own learning process against itself. It was a gamble. If they failed, the network would assimilate the entire installation and then spread to the rest of the colony. But they had no other choice. For the next 3 hours, they worked tirelessly, crafting a complex web of disinformation. They manipulated sensor readings, altered communication protocols, and even created fake Xylosium deposits in the installation's virtual reality training simulations. The network responded predictably. It began to incorporate the false data into its own calculations, its evolution taking unexpected turns. Its movements became erratic, its coordination faltering. Then, the unexpected happened. A section of the network, overwhelmed by the conflicting information, began to collapse in on itself. The bioluminescent growths dimmed, their movements slowing to a crawl. It's working, Davies shouted, his voice filled with elation. But Vance knew it wasn't over yet. The network was resilient. It would adapt. It would learn from its mistakes. Suddenly, a piercing alarm blared through the command post. What is it? Vance demanded. A new signal, the communications officer reported, his face pale with dread. It's coming from deep within the Xylosium vein. Vance felt a cold knot of fear tighten in his stomach. They had bought themselves time, but something else was stirring in the darkness. Something even more dangerous than the bioluminescent network. As the rain continued to fall on Kepler 186f, Vance knew that the fight had only just begun. The secrets of the Xylosium vein were far more profound and far more terrifying than they could have ever imagined, and he suspected, with a growing sense of dread, that the Kaelen Corporation might be more involved than they initially thought.